The White House goes to the mat to defend ICE. Let's check it out. Welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. The Trump administration firing back quite boldly as the media and Democrats attempt to paint an ICE agent defending himself as a murderer. The video of yesterday's shooting makes it quite clear to the objective observer, unemployed 37-year-old Renee Good, who the Post reports was considered an anti-ICE warrior, had spent her entire day illegally impeding federal law enforcement agents. She parks her SUV across a roadway to block ICE agents from moving yet again. And after showing tremendous restraint with her for hours that day, ICE agents finally had enough, and as they moved in to remove her from that SUV and to make the arrest, Renee Good floors it with an agent standing right in front of her hood. And that's how you get the scene that we saw yesterday. The SUV in that moment became a deadly weapon, and the officer appropriately fires in response. He's standing in front of an SUV that gets floored. Now we know, this is old video here from about 6 months ago, that the agent who fired yesterday, the agent that fired and shot and killed Renee Good, had been dragged. You can see in that video right there, 150 feet by an illegal alien convicted sex offender during an ICE operation in Minnesota just 6 months ago. So he was just dragged by a car 6 months ago and has another car floored at him. This is the job that ICE does. Today, our vice president, armed with that knowledge, excoriated the media's ridiculous coverage of this story.
The way that the media, by and large, has reported this story has been an absolute disgrace, and it puts our law enforcement officers at risk every single day. What that headline leaves out is the fact that that very ICE officer nearly had his life ended, dragged by a car 6 months ago, 33 stitches in his leg. So you think maybe he's a little bit sensitive about somebody ramming him with an automobile? Everybody who's been repeating the lie that this is some innocent woman who was out for a drive in Minneapolis when a law enforcement officer shot at her, you should be ashamed of yourselves.
Well said. They don't want you to know that this agent was dragged just 6 months ago. They don't want you to know that violence against ICE is up more than tenfold, or that car rammings against ICE are almost a daily occurrence at this point, because all of that makes yesterday's shooting even more justified than the video makes it, which the video is quite clear. Here's a look at what it's like to be an ICE agent. We just cut up some video of you. This is what they deal with every day. Brainwashed, unemployed communists, dozens of them everywhere they go, antagonizing them, screaming at them, shoving them, spitting on them, punching them, blocking them. Every day. This is their job. They get all of this for the horrible crime of doing their job, which is a job that the federal government has employed forever, protecting the sovereignty of a country, returning the United States to a sovereign nation with laws and borders, which we took a little 4-year break from that. Something that Democrats somehow in the last 5 or 7 years have decided after 250 years we're no longer going to do, which is have borders and know who's in our country. We're not going to suicide this country to appease the white guilt of liberals that have just figured out that they no longer want to live in a lawful bordered society. Not going to do it. And the death of this 37-year-old ideologue is not going to change that. Today, Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, who's watched his entire career collapse in just the last few weeks, got in front of the podium, gaslit everybody yet again, lied a lot, and then begged for mercy.
Look, we're exhausted. We're exhausted as Minnesotans. We're exhausted as Americans. And this relentless assault on Minnesota, for whatever reason, is just cruel now. It has reached cruelness. So please, just give us a break. And if it's me, you're already getting what you want. But leave my people alone.
Playing the victim again. It's all their fault. It's the fault of the people that lead that state. That's why Minnesota is so often in the news these last couple of weeks. Gaslighting, lying, that's all Tim Walz knows. The state of Minnesota is our country's greatest national embarrassment tonight. Hijacked by the left, a once great state, it has become a sanctuary for refugees who contribute nothing and take as much as they can from America's expansive welfare state. And beyond that, additionally, in addition to that, many more taking even more from this country through fraud. How many thousands have been leeching off the Somali fraud scandal? You think it's just 80 people that did this? The community is like one large family. Somalis all stick together. There's about 75,000 of them, and they're all on the same team. And that family has stolen billions of dollars. You think just a few people have that money? Get real. A scandal so outrageous it led Tim Walz, who was nearly the vice president, to resign at the end of this term. That same scandal has brought ICE to Minnesota with a clear mission to deport any illegal defrauding our country, and has also led to a new position at the Attorney General's office, which will now focus solely on fraud for at least the next 3 years. It's exactly what we need. Announced today, a new assistant AG that's going to be looking at fraud in this country everywhere they can find it. I hope they hire the smartest guy they can find. Tim Walz says he's exhausted because he's such a pathetic governor that his state has earned the attention of the entire nation for multiple terrible reasons. Meanwhile, the beta male mayor of Minneapolis is having his tough guy moment on television, defending the F-bomb that he dropped during a press conference on Wednesday while telling ICE to get out of his city.
I'm so sorry if I offended their Disney princess ears, but here's the thing. If we're talking about what's inflammatory, on the one hand, you got someone who dropped an F-bomb, and on the other hand, you got someone who killed somebody else. F-bomb, killing somebody. I think the more inflammatory action is killing somebody.
Okay, killing somebody. All theater, of course, and pandering to the 10% of his party, the fiery radical left base that's out protesting tonight, that militantly wants no borders and a lawless anarchist society. That's who the Democrat Party is pandering to with all of this. It's really ugly. As Minneapolis prepares for riots, some businesses have already started boarding up. Riots again, I should say. This happens often in Minneapolis. Republicans in Congress want to finally identify and take action against the anti-American scum that are funding these protests. Let's get to the source of where this is coming from, including a man named Neville Singham, who we've talked about on this show before. A guy who made his fortunes here in the United States. These are the worst. Makes loads of money here in the U.S. off this beautiful system in this fantastic country. Then he runs to China and embraces communism, and then sends millions and millions, tens of millions of dollars back to this country to destroy it, to destroy the country that gave him everything. Take a listen.
Neville Singham, regardless of what you might feel about your colleagues, has been a mechanism and funding arm of the Chinese Communist Party. He is definitely someone that is anti-American in ideology, is funding certain groups that actually sow discord in this country with no efforts to actually resolve the issues, only to get us to fight one another. He is a known foreign agent to China, has not been registered as such, has been made to fund riots, and has been known to be the result of many of our own Americans being targeted with violence.
That's Anna Paulina Luna there, scoring a subpoena against Neville Singham to hopefully bring him to the United States and get him to admit under oath to dumping millions into violent left-wing chaos in our cities for years now. But the domestic propaganda, the stuff that we're seeing right here inside of our own country, is just as bad.
People are seeing things because everyone is affected by this. That young lady could have been anybody in this audience.
Well, that's...
It doesn't matter what, forget color, forget it. It could have been anybody. And if they can do this to her, they can do it to you, too.
That's right.
It could have been anybody. She's now been described as an anti-ICE warrior, an unemployed young woman. It could be, I guess, any unemployed, radical, left-wing psychopath who uses her SUV to block federal agents from moving, and by the way, has made a career out of this, apparently. This is all she does. She does not, or she did not work. This is what she did, was do this as often as she could find ICE agents, she would do this. And then she mindlessly decides to floor the gas with an agent standing in front of her hood. I guess in that case, it could be anybody that this happened to. The ICE Director, Todd Lyons, joins us now. Sir, good to have you back on. I just want to start. It's been 24 hours, a little more, actually. You've seen the video of yesterday's shooting. You guys have looked at all this. What is your perspective, the perspective of ICE?
Rob, thanks for having me back. Well, first off, obviously our thoughts, prayers, and hearts go out to everyone involved in this situation. Looking at this video, we've seen this type of incident countless times all across the nation, right? Ever since I've been the director, ICE has been the target of increased violence, threats, and in many cases ramming incidents. Right now, it's our concern is the safety of our officer, his well-being, and obviously, we can't put our mind in what that officer was going through at the time. There's obviously well-documented Supreme Court case, Graham versus Connor, that any use of force, tactics, and structure will go back to. And, it's at the mindset of the officer at the time and how that individual felt. Obviously, no one wants to be involved in any type of deadly force situation. But again, this was totally avoidable. People should not be involving themselves in any law enforcement operation anywhere in the country.
Well, I think the greater point is that you're watching this. From what I understand, this woman spent her whole day trying to interrupt the operations of federal agents, which is fully illegal. And the restraint that in this country that we show, because we want people to feel like they're free to object and they're free to protest. So we show a tremendous amount of restraint for absolutely ridiculous behavior and illegal behavior. And that restraint was shown all day long. And what happens is these people start to push harder and harder because they feel like they're going to go just as far as they think they can get away with it. This time she put her car in a position where she's blocking her agents from doing their job. And when they tell her, get the hell out of the car, we're done with this now, you're done, we're going to get you out of there, we're going to probably arrest you, she makes the decision to floor the vehicle with an officer right in front of it. That vehicle turns into a deadly weapon in that moment. Now, I don't know if she wanted to run him over or if she was just too stupid to understand that she had a 5,000-pound vehicle that could easily have killed him. But that SUV becomes a deadly weapon, and it changes the whole scenario.
It does. And anytime someone uses a 3,000 to 4,000-pound vehicle to assault or impede or even to escape a law enforcement custody, that's a deadly force situation. Right, that is a domestic terrorist incident, just like Secretary Noem said. And again, not only this individual, but all throughout Minneapolis, we've organized protesters and agitators that show up on our scenes, show up at our arrest within minutes, if not seconds. Sure. Because it's so well organized that they're out there constantly harassing, impeding, and bothering and getting involved in a lawful law enforcement situation that they have no business being involved in.
I don't know how you guys do it, and you face this every single day. And again, the more restraint you show, the more aggressive the other side gets. And I mean, this was bound to happen. And at the same time, you've got the rhetoric coming from Democrats is that you guys are fascists. And if this was really fascist, if this was really the Gestapo running around, this is how people would react. So the rhetoric is purely to blame. I wonder if are you prepared for? Is this officer prepared for the likelihood of charges coming inside Hennepin County? We all know how the courts work in these very blue districts and how easy it is to get an indictment for something like this. Here's the Lieutenant Governor Penny Flanagan. Let's play her.
Will Minnesota then try to leapfrog that and push with state charges of this ICE officer?
I think that, that's certainly something that, will need to be taken very seriously. As they're talking about, domestic terrorism or somehow, trying to disrespect and insult the memory of Renee Nicole Good, we need to do everything we can to make sure that the truth is getting out there.
Get your reaction to that.
The truth is out there. You can see the video. But again, I'm not going to speculate or jump ahead on what the state's going to do. But obviously right now, our main priority is that officer and all of our officers that are on the street every day. Already, there are, photos being circulated of an ICE individual on that scene claiming it was the officer that shot, calling for his arrest, calling for his murder, calling for harassment of his families. Of course. And that's just not right. And that's the whole, problem, Rob. And you and I have been talking ever since I've been the acting ICE director. These threats and the rhetoric is up so much, and it's from elected officials. When you have elected officials that are promising, to keep ICE agents out, it's okay to go impede, call to arms to go and mess with ICE agents while they're out there in the community. That is what's stoking these flames. And, we've heard the mayor say, ICE out of Minnesota. ICE has been there for decades. Yeah. There's been an ICE field office there.
The only
2
thing
decades plus.
The only thing that's changed is that Democrats suddenly decided that this country cannot have borders. This is no longer a sovereign country, and they made that decision after 250 years of this country. They made that decision in about the last 7 years, and they expect everybody to just blindly go along with them on that. I want to show our very corrupt governor here in New York, Kathy Hochul, the latest to just flex her treatment of ICE agents. Take a listen to this.
I've asked an ICE agent, why are you wearing the mask when I was down there at the 26 Federal Plaza? I said, why do you wear the mask? No other law enforcement does this. And they said, because we get doxxed, our family gets harassed, et cetera. I said, why do you think you are more than anybody else? I mean, come on, you're just trying to scare people. You're terrorizing people yourselves. We don't need that here. We're doing just fine in New York. The mayor and I will stand together and reject any efforts to try and militarize our streets, but they never should have been in Minneapolis in the first place.
What's your reaction?
That's absolutely ridiculous, Rob. That's the bad thing right there is when you have political officials that don't actually pay attention to what they're saying. So an ICE agent had told her that he's afraid for his safety, his family's safety, yet she thinks that we're trying to intimidate. That's just wrong. These political officials need to stand up and say to the people that are threatening ICE agents and their families, the ones that are impeding, arresting, ramming vehicles. We just had a ramming today down here in Virginia. There was one in New York while this other incident was going on. These people need to be held accountable. Politicians should be standing up and holding these people accountable that are hurting law enforcement.
Yeah, and just what makes it so clear is that the politicians in this country will sell out the stability of our country. They'll sell out the sovereignty of our country. They'll sell anything out if it's for their own political benefit. They'll say insane things like she just said. They don't care. If it's going to keep her in power, they couldn't care less. They don't care about the impact it has on our society, the impact it has on our federal agents. They couldn't care less. It's so insanely irresponsible. Todd Lyons, the director of ICE. Sir, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Rob. Good talking to you again. Appreciate it.
All right, Dana Loesch joins us now as we've got some video here. If you look at the corner, we can pull it up full screen, Washington, D.C. And the protests are firing up. And Dana, we know that it usually takes about 24, 48 hours for the protests to really kick in because they got to coordinate it. They're not authentic. They're not organic. The money has to come together, and they have to all conspire together to get these things going. But it looks like tonight might get a little uglier than last night. But I want to lead with you with that, and also that the New York Post is reporting that the woman who was killed yesterday, Renee Good, was considered an anti-ICE warrior who had been radicalized by her son's woke private school since moving to Minneapolis with her wife. She was involved in ICE Watch, a group dedicated to disrupting ICE raids around Minneapolis. This is a woman that did not work and spent most of her time trying to inhibit the operations of federal agents in her city.
I guess that's that white privilege that we always hear the left talk about, Rob. I mean, imagine not working and then going and impeding an operation being conducted by ICE. And that's what nobody in the media is talking about. You stated so accurately. She stopped, and this isn't just me saying this. This is witnesses on the ground, people, fellow activists that were on the ground. Yes, they told national and local press that she, quote, stalked them all day, and then she was the, quote, lead car in pursuing them, finding where they were, and then blocking and boxing them in. She was looking for a fight. That's why her partner was standing on the sidewalk as opposed to being in the car so they could record it and then upload it to social media to virtue signal. You played video of Kathy Hochul, who has blood on her hands. You played video of Tim Walz, who has blood on his hands, because this is what people voted for. They voted for law and order, getting rid of criminal repeat offenders who first break the law by entering illegally and then continue to break the law, many of in felonious activities, and then talking about detaining those people and deporting them. This is what Americans voted for. So it's not just a rebuke of ICE. This is a declaration of conflict on all of Americans, half of the country, over half, that voted for law and order away from lawlessness and disorder. And one last quick note, Jacob Frey, who I think is one of the most disgusting, cowardice, beta people that I've ever seen in elected office. This is an individual who has received kickbacks from the Somali diaspora fraud in Minneapolis, specifically from that $250 million Feed Our Future fund, which he, on record, and Wall Street Journal reported this 2 days ago, is in receipt of those funds. So he skimmed off of the top of that fraud, stole from taxpayers to help fund his campaign. All of this is for these Democrats to distract because they would rather have the country descend into chaos than them to be in cuffs and held accountable for their betrayal of the American people.
Oh, Tim Walz, Fry, Ellison are thanking the heavens above that this happened to give them a distraction away from this. This is saving them here in the near term. I don't think it's going to save them forever because that story's not going to go away. But these last couple of days, it's been a nice reprieve for them. And Dana, just what happened to our country that, you know, they took away. They just took away lawlessness and sovereignty and the border for 4 years. And now when you try to re-implement what we've always done in this country, which was bipartisan before 2020, which is having a border and having, you know, somewhat common sense immigration policy in this country, it erupts into chaos when you start deporting millions of illegals that have come into the country over the last 4 years. What happened?
Exactly. What happened? $1 million question. I played on my radio program earlier today audio from former President Barack Obama talking about deportation. And this was just 15 years ago, 18 years ago, when it was considered acceptable by the Democrat Party and by the left. Yeah. And now we've gone so far full towards lawlessness and disorder that it's considered somehow bad to uphold the law. These are people, I mean, some of the people mentioned have been child predators, murderers, rapists. We're not talking about somebody who runs a stop sign. We're talking about violent repeat offenders who have repeatedly entered the country illegally, people who pose a direct and immediate threat to the safety and well-being of our communities. That is who ICE is targeting. And can I say, God bless ICE officers and this agent. And I'm going to tell you what, Katie, bar the door if anyone comes after this agent. Katie, bar the door if people start targeting our ICE agents. Their parents, too. Their moms and dads. They have families, they have kids. And I think all of these people need a gut check. Where are you going to go, Democrats? Whose side are you on? You're either on the side of the American people or you're on the side of lawlessness and disorder. We don't want to have to make that decision for you, but by God, we will if pushed.
It's surreal to watch this moment and to see where, like you said, the Democrat Party is on this issue. I mean, that base of people that's on the screen screaming right now is so important to them that they have abandoned all common sense in their politics. They have to pay, you would think they'd have to pay a price for this at some point, and maybe it's in the midterms. They're an unrecognizable party. Let's hope. Dana Loesch, appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Thanks for having me.
With Venezuela under his thumb, Trump eyes $50 oil. We've got that next with the Interior Secretary, Doug Burgum.
You served your country with honor. Now get the benefits you've rightfully earned. Paul R. Lawrence has written the book every veteran should own, Veterans Benefits for You. This step-by-step guide breaks down what you need to know, from financial compensation and disabilities to information for dependents and parents. This book is a must-read for all servicemen and women. Get your free copy today with our special offer. Call the number on your screen or go online to order.
As a cardiologist, when I put my patients on a statin to reduce cholesterol, I also tell them it can deplete their CoQ10 levels. I recommend taking Cunol CoQ10. Cunol has 3 times better absorption than regular CoQ10. Cunol, the brand I trust.
At Ancestry, we believe every question about the past is a spark. And when curiosity strikes about the everyday lives of your family, we're here with answers only your ancestors can provide. How is your family woven into 250 years of U.S. history? Find out now, before our sale ends.
This is the one who makes sparks fly. Getting it done takes the right material, experience, and the right partner. The professional-grade products you need. Call, click Grainger.com, or stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
For pain in multiple spots like here, here, or here, Salonpas patches stick firmly and remove comfortably once your pain is gone. Salonpas. It's good medicine.
Affordable dentures and implants just got even more affordable.
I saw you strolling down the lane.
Schedule your free consultation at affordabledentures.com or call 1-800-DENTURE today.
Welcome back. Big oil executives expected to meet with the president at the White House tomorrow to discuss Venezuela. The president telling the New York Times he expects the U.S. to oversee the extraction of oil from Venezuela for years to come. The Wall Street Journal reporting Trump wants to see $50 oil in this country. The current price for a barrel is around 58. That'll get gas down to around $2. Adding a plan under consideration envisions the U.S. exerting some control over Venezuela's state-run oil company, including acquiring and marketing the bulk of the country's oil production. The Interior Secretary, Doug Burgum, is with us tonight. And, sir, it's good to see you again. New tonight, we just want to put this out there for everyone to see. The New York Times is reporting that we're chasing several more Venezuelan-linked oil tankers at this hour in the Atlantic. We seized 2 yesterday. I want to start with, is our primary interest in Venezuela oil?
The primary interest of President Trump is the security of American people, the security of our borders, and then the prosperity of the American people. And Venezuela has been a playground of all the bad actors around the world, not just Venezuela and Maduro, but Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, Russia, China. Everybody is down there playing in the playground because it's got the world's largest oil reserves, but complete mismanagement, complete corruption, crushing the country, crushing their economy, driving 8 million people out of the country, many of them fleeing to the United States. And of course, as you know, then now fueling their economy with drug sales. And so this is like having the worst. You think of it, you got a beautiful house in a neighborhood, and then down the street there's a violent drug gang living there that's poisoning your kids and ruining the value in your neighborhood. President Trump exercising bold leadership, brilliant strategy, breathtaking execution, and without right now any troops on the ground taking over the economy of Venezuela. So this is fantastic for American consumers. We're going to have lower price of gas. We're going to have security in the region. It's going to help with the borders. I mean, this is brilliant on every sector.
And the plan is to see an election at some point, and to, based on the numbers that we saw in the last election, even though it was stolen by Maduro, that we would have a friendly leader in that country, and we would have access to Venezuelan oil at the very least for the future to come. What does that do to the energy markets? Does that stabilize? Does that keep us away from the power of OPEC? I mean, what does that do? Does it ensure that we have cheaper energy for a long term?
Well, absolutely it does, because in the United States, are all of our refining production on the Gulf Coast around the country was really built around Venezuelan heavy crude. We had built a partnership and a relationship with them going back decades and decades ago. That's all been cut off. Venezuela was selling their oil at a huge discount to places like China. The Biden sanctions weren't working in terms of all of this oil was getting out of Venezuela. Now with an embargo in effect, and whether it's us chasing down tankers in the Atlantic or now securing the entire Gulf of America to make sure that all of that oil stays there, we have an opportunity to market it and control where it's disposed of. All of this is going to be a benefit in the end to Venezuela. Venezuela is going to get paid more for their oil. That's going to help rebuild this country. It's going to help move it back towards a valued trading partner. As has been announced this week, we'll be lifting selectively sanctions off of Iran to help rebuild their industry, because they've destroyed their electric sector, they've destroyed their mining sector, they've destroyed their energy sector, oil and gas. Big opportunity for America.
Yeah, I want to ask you before I let you go, Greenland, you're the Secretary of the Interior. The Interior might be getting larger. The president wants to buy Greenland, offering potentially as much as $100,000 per resident of Greenland for it, which would be about $5 billion. Only 50,000 people live in that massive country, by the way. Talk about that and just how you envision this going down and why it's so critically important.
Well, you take a look at the map of the world, or take a look at a globe from looking from the North Pole down, and you can see why Greenland is the opposite end of a bookend. The other end is Alaska. You look to the other side of the world, and you've got Russia and all of their adventurism around the Arctic. This is Greenland's critical to the national security of the United States. It's critical to European security. Europeans should be cheering that the U.S. wants to get involved there and provide that kind of protection. And of course, again, we're in Interior. We manage all of our territories around the world, our affiliated states. I mean, we manage land from Guam to U.S. Virgin Islands over 14 time zones. We have all the ability to take on that responsibility. And again, it would be a win for all democracies in the world if the U.S. was exerting more authority there.
Do you think that, I got 10 seconds, but do you think that happens? Are we going to acquire Greenland? Do you think it happens soon?
I think it's great. We're working for the greatest deal maker that's ever been president. Anything's possible with this president. And again, he is A+ on everything he's executing on strategy abroad that helps bring prosperity at home.
Buying Greenland. What a story to talk about. It makes a hell of a headline.
Hey, we bought Alaska. Yeah. We bought Alaska for $15 million, and that turned out to be a great bargain. Buying Greenland for $5 billion could be a bargain too.
$5 billion is nothing. $100,000 per resident. That would be something.
Yes.
Mr. Secretary, good to see you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rob. Great to be with you.
All right. We want to go back to Minneapolis for a second. Our Newsmax correspondent, John Glasgow, is in the middle of what I think might be a very busy night. John.
Yeah, Rob. Well, we found the kryptonite here because it's rain. Just about 20 minutes ago, this was full of protesters. But now listen to this, Rob. If you can listen carefully, they brought a jukebox here, stereo system, and they're listening right now to the YMCA.
What?
You know that song very well. We've heard that many a times, the YMCA at many of President Trump's rallies. But I kid you not. So these are the agitators here tonight. HSI, they were smart enough to actually get inside their vehicles, and they're watching in the nice warm comfort of their cars. So there's, here we go. We might get some action here, Rob, if we hang out. They're getting closer here to the front of the property. Once that starts happening, we saw a little bit of the paintball guns going off, but I don't think they might see that right now. But this has been what has gone on all day. And right at 7 o'clock this morning, they had people outside the ICE facility.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Okay. Well, we'll follow if
anything.
If anything builds up there, we're going to come back and we'll be following it all night. John Glasgow in the rain in Minneapolis. The protesters don't like bad weather, John. We know that. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.
They don't like. Yeah, no problem, man.
All right. Good to see you. All right. CBS Evening News humanizes Marco Rubio, and mayhem ensues. That's next with Rick and Ed.
He's breathing. Okay, go again.
Nearly 5,000 people die from choking each year. That's frightening. I'm Dr. Ben Carson.
And I'm Arthur Lee. Well, there are ways to help prevent choking. Accidents do happen. That's why I invented the Life Pack.
Anyone can use this device, and it can save a life in seconds.
Just place, push, and pull. It's that simple. Please order one for your home, office, car, anywhere you eat.
Go to lifehack.net or call 877-543-3822.
A new year brings new threats, and Cyberman's ready for every one of them. While hackers plot their next move, Cyberman's already there, protecting families, businesses, and governments before danger can strike. This year, protect what matters most with easy-to-use, award-winning protection. With PC-Matic, you get American-made protection that's faster, smarter, and stronger. Start 2026 with confidence. Visit PCMatic.com today.
Have you ever dreamed of getting your business on TV? At GrowAds.com, we produce a high-end TV spot starting at only $950. Then we air your TV spot on major cable networks in your local area, only at GrowAds.com.
A better heart health supplement. That's what we all want. That's why for 8 years now, I've relied on this heart powder. It's Super Beats, and I swear by it.
Super Beats is the original #1 selling beet brand for healthy blood pressure support. The only cardiologist-recommended beet brand that's also trusted by over 40 national championship-winning pro and college sports teams for cardio-powered energy.
For cardio results you can feel, the only brand I trust is Super Beats.
Find out how to get a free month with your first order at livehuman.com.
Hi there, I'm Dean Heskin, President and CEO of Swiss America. Most investors believe their IRA, 401k, and bank accounts are reliable and safe. But what if our economy becomes so dire that you're restricted from accessing your own money? The fact is that should your bank be in trouble for holding bad loans, the burden could fall on you to help bail them out. Even more concerning is that U.S. financial regulations allow banks to impose withdrawal limits on your hard-earned savings. But there's something you can do about it. Our team at Swiss America has a report called The Secret War on Cash. Learn how to protect yourself with assets that can remain outside the control of banks and other financial institutions. For over 40 years, Swiss America has been one of the most trusted metal firms in the country. So don't wait. Call or text the number on your screen today for financial peace of mind in these uncertain times.
Hungry Root is here, and I needed it because my fridge is super empty.
It's so easy to just whip together a quick, healthy meal.
Head to hungryroot.com for healthy groceries and simple recipes. Plus, get free veggies for life.
It is not, generally speaking, unruly.
The dehumanizing rhetoric of Adolf Hitler is once again alive and well.
This version of Biden is the best Biden ever.
All right, since being acquired by billionaire Trump ally Larry Ellison, you've likely noticed CBS News is changing, morphing from yet another propaganda machine for the left in this country into something a lot more moderate and more newsworthy. Ellison's dream of a broadcast network that does honest news, one of the big three, going back to what the mission statement was all those years ago. The CBS Evening News is starting to sound different when covering topics like January 6th, or even daring to do profiles and humanizing people in the Trump administration like Marco Rubio. Take a listen.
5 years after the January 6th attack, a group of pardoned defendants marched through Washington. President Trump today accused Democrats of failing to prevent the attack on the Capitol, while House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries accused the president of, quote, whitewashing it. Marco Rubio, we salute you. You're the ultimate Florida man.
That's something, by the way, that you could see on any broadcast network done about a Democrat politician in this country. They've done that for the Bidens. They've done that for the Obamas. But just that moment right there has leftist CBS employees reportedly furious. Brian Stelter reporting that some high-profile CBS News staffers were aghast over Tony DeCopel's January 6th coverage because he attempted to show both sides of the argument over how January 6th has been covered and how that story has been told. Another staffer complaining to The Independent that it's now state TV over at CBS. Employees reportedly raging about CBS Evening News. MAGA pivot, they call it, while fuming that Tony DeCopel, the host, is practicing journalism malpractice and pro-Trump propaganda. Pro-Trump propaganda because he said, "We salute you," to Marco Rubio after explaining all the various different jobs Rubio is doing inside of this administration, how busy he is, while reporting, by the way, he was reporting from Miami, Florida that night. N2 hosts Rick Leventhal and Ed Henry join us now. Good to see you both. Ed, Oliver Darcy is calling it the DeCopel debacle, labeling the show's editorial choices as MAGA-friendly after speaking to a number of staffers. Isn't it crazy to see how insane they go when you have a network that's not fully aligned with their interests?
Absolutely. For 5 years, the mainstream media, led by CBS and others, have told a completely one-sided story about January 6th and left out the patriots who were exercising their First Amendment rights. They often leave out that the president of the United States at the time, Donald J. Trump, in his first term, said march peacefully and patriotically over to the Capitol. Yes, I'm not saying it was perfect. I'm not saying it was all good. Certainly there were people, if they assaulted law enforcement, they needed to be held accountable. I've always said that. But people at CBS largely haven't told any of the positive of people speaking out and have just bought Nancy Pelosi's ridiculous narratives, hook, line, and sinker, and never called her out for failing to bring in the National Guard, for example. So they're clutching their pearls because maybe now they'll do a fair story. As for Marco Rubio, by the way, that's a little softer edge. He has so many jobs in the administration. He had to put out a statement today that now that the head coach of the Miami Dolphins has been fired, he's not taking that job, guys. He's not going to be in the NFL.
It's exactly. And Rubio, I mean, Rick, the idea of humanizing someone in the administration is where all the fury comes from. And by the way, these are networks that have humanized so many members of Obama, Biden staffers, cabinet members, the first ladies. But the moment that you take somebody that works in the Trump realm and you make them a human being, and you show them as just a hardworking guy that's created a wonderful life for himself, they are irate at CBS News Tonight.
Well, Rob, it is hilarious that they would call CBS state TV because they dared to say something nice about someone in the Trump administration. Are you kidding me? I mean, they were, you know, at the altar of Biden for 4 solid years. They have been attacking Donald Trump nonstop, not just CBS, but every other mainstream network, ever since he came on the scene as a potential political candidate. They have been anti-Trump all this time and pro any Democrat at any time across America. All of a sudden, it's state TV because they said something nice about Marco Rubio and actually provided some fair coverage of the January 6th protesters. Yeah. I mean, this is hypocrisy at its finest. I'm not surprised by any of it. I'm glad to see CBS doing something right for once. But I have to admit, Rob, I'm a little at a disadvantage here because I don't watch CBS or any other broadcast network for those very reasons.
That's exactly. Trust me, a lot of people don't. The numbers are bleeding out. The ratings are bleeding out. I've got only a minute left. I wanted to share this story. I'll get a quick reaction from both of you guys. It's been a year since the Palisades fire. We all remember a year ago when they caught David Muir turning to the side and he had the clothespins kind of cropping his jacket so he looked sexier while he's reporting on, thousands of homes burning down in Altadena and the Palisades. But they're back this year in the Palisades. ABC returning and paying attention, to their credit, paying attention to a story that is quite damning for Gavin Newsom, who wants to be our next Democrat president. Take a listen.
He tells me it's been a real struggle.
Did the insurance company cover you?
Yes, it was. It's not been an easy process. To me, that was mind-blowing because I'm like, well, when we signed the policy, that's the moment you should have decided whether my house was worth that much or not. Now it's too late.
He says it's been a year-long battle. They have decided not to rebuild. They're simply trying to sell the lot.
I got 10 seconds for both of you. Rick, this story, the Palisades story, and the pending fraud investigation in your state of California, there has got to be panic inside Gavin Newsom's office.
I would hope so. I hope they're panicking because they dropped the ball big time. There's a lot coming out about this, and we're going to have a lot on our show about that issue. It's a pathetic situation, and it needs to be fixed.
Ed, final thought.
Yeah, I was in Pacific Palisades 6 months ago, and they hadn't built a single home, even though Gavin Newsom had said there'd be a Marshall Plan to do something really serious. 6 months later, they've still barely done nothing. It's a disgrace, and this guy wants to run for president. Real quick, they lost 16,000 structures. They built 10 homes since then.
It's surreal.
What does that tell you?
It's going to be at least 10 years before that place looks normal again. And that's the truth. And that's what they want to do to the whole country. Good luck. Amazing. Rick and Ed, good to see you both. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Up next, it's been a big week for Maha. Kennedy's right-hand man, Calley Means, with us next on a brand new food pyramid and vaccine schedule.
Well, the season of giving is over. Ho, ho, ho. Welcome to the season of paying for it. That not-so-wonderful time of the year when millions of Americans who went overboard for the holidays open up their credit card statements, scream in terror, and resolve to save a few bucks in the new year. If that sounds like you, why not switch to Pure Talk's Saver Plan? Unlimited talk, text, and 3 gigs of high-speed data for just $20 a month. Think of it as the gift of savings, from you to you, with a little help from Pure Talk.
You're looking at Carvana's newest and proudest customer. So proud that we're teaming up to create Shackvana. Shackvana will be 100% online so customers can shop from anywhere.
That's so Shackvana.
Visit Shackvana or Carvana and buy your car today.
Every day across the globe, big business agendas go unseen by investors. Things that go against your core values and beliefs. It's time to know your investments. Abortion, alternative lifestyles, gender and identity confusion. If you believe in protecting marriage and life, children, innocence, guarding masculinity, restoring families, defending religious liberty, invest with your values. Before investing, carefully consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the investment company. This and other important information can be found in the fund's prospectus. To obtain a copy, visit timothyplan.com or call 800-846-7526. Read each prospectus carefully before investing. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
nurse-led care anticipates needs before they're voiced. From skilled nursing to companion care that renews the soul.
Doctors' Preferred Liver Defense is doctor-developed to support your natural detox function with clinically validated, triple-tested key ingredients to energize and renew your liver. Find Liver Defense in the supplement aisle at Walmart. Doctors Preferred. Better science, better results.
It's about political
American
points.
people deserve better fiscal.
It's terrible. Politics seeps into everything.
What do you mean? Talk about climate change or the economy or, of course, elections.
You can't find out what we should really expect to happen.
But of course you can.
Go to IBKR's Forecast Trader.
Put your money where your mouth is.
Ring in the new year with a kitchen designed to wow. It's the perfect time to explore our quality kitchen cabinet collections to find the well-crafted style you want. Because for a limited time only, you can get the kitchen of your dreams with 0% APR for 48 months. We'll even help you bring your vision to life with a free 3D design consultation. Hurry, offer ends soon. Only at Cabinets to Go. Designed to wow.
All right, we're back now with Calley Means, senior White House advisor, back with us. We're going to talk vaccine schedule, also this new food pyramid that's been flipped upside down. I remember the food pyramid as a kid. Calley, good to see you. I want to first take a listen to Kennedy, to RFK, on the new dietary guidelines. We'll get your reaction on the other side.
We are here to celebrate the release of the dietary guidelines for Americans 2025 to 2030, the most significant reset of federal nutrition policy in history. These guidelines replace the corporate-driven assumptions with common sense, gold standard scientific integrity. These new guidelines will revolutionize our nation's food culture and make America healthy again.
So we'll pull up, the image of the food pyramid, but the meat and the vegetables have moved up into a better position. Explain why this needed to happen. What did you guys do here?
Rob, this is the most important public health guidance, I believe, in modern American history, and an act of bravery by the Trump administration. I'll get into why that is, because you look at the guidelines, they're very simple. They say to eat real food. They say to avoid added sugar when 38% of teens are now pre-diabetic.
Yeah.
It says to avoid the highly processed food that is clearly causing chronic disease. And it says avoid refined carbohydrates, which have exploded into the American diet and are unambiguously related to chronic disease. Now, those are all simple points. Those points have never been said by a U.S. government nutrition guidelines. Why is that? It is because the nutrition guidelines are one of the most important procurement documents in the American government. Right now, military meals, school meals, WIC, these dozens of government feeding programs, there's hundreds of billions of dollars the federal government spends on food a year. They're seen as piggy banks by junk food companies. You get to these programs, you look at what's on a child's plate, 70% of their diet, 70% of a child's diet is highly processed food.
It's ridiculous.
So because there's that money, there's been lobbying and there's been cowardice from previous administrations. And the fact that President Trump listened to the Maha moms, told Secretary Kennedy and Secretary Rollins at the USDA, I want the truth and I want Americans to get the truth. I'll have your back on the special interest. This is a monumental day. It's a historic day. And that pyramid that says eat real food is going to go up in every classroom in America. It's going to change our food culture, which is needed. We are getting way too sick in this country. We're the sickest country in the developed world.
I love what HHS is doing. I love what you guys do. I love the way you're talking about it. I don't live by this always, but I try to live by the idea that I try to go back 100 years ago. Eat the way you ate 100 years ago. If it didn't exist 100 years ago, you probably shouldn't be eating it today. And that's the way I try to do it. I got to leave it there just because the show is so tight. But Calley Means, good to see you and great work. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Rob.
Breaking news, Portland, Oregon tonight. FBI investigating a shooting involving federal agents. 2 people hospitalized with gunshot wounds. Portland police confirming the incident. We're not sure exactly what happened. May have involved CBP, Customs Border Protection. We'll get you more details as it comes out. All right, Hilton makes quick work of a rogue hotel that insulted our federal agents.
Muddy paws, dirty shoes, endless cleaning? Your floors never seem to stay clean. Now there's a simple solution. Meet Muddy Mat, the ultra-absorbent microfiber mat that traps dirt instantly. Engineered with thousands of advanced ultra-soft microfibers that are 5 times more absorbent than ordinary doormats. Muddy Mat doesn't just catch dirt, it locks it in. Whether it's mud, snow, sand, or water, every step on your new Muddy Mat leaves your floors spotless. And its reinforced rubber backing keeps it firmly in place. No more slipping or sliding. Perfect for your entryway, kitchen, bathroom, or even under your pet's food bowl, Muddy Mat absorbs up to 5 times more water. And when it's time for a cleanup, just toss it in the washing machine and it comes out looking as good as new.
Dog parents, this is a must-have.
My floors have never been so clean. I mean, both Ruby and Blue came in covered in mud, and this anti-mud mat left their paws sparkling.
I've got muddy mats all over the house. I even use one as a bath mat. It feels so good under my feet. It's so soft. Non-slip backing makes it safe too.
With multiple dogs, I've always struggled with having dirty paws on the floor, but with this mat, I can finally stop stressing out about it because there are no prints anywhere.
It's so soft and squishy. I've even found my puppy sleeping on the mat instead of his bed. They work so well, I bought 3 more so I could put them all over my house.
You just place the Muddy Mat in front of the door and you'll save up so much time cleaning the floors. Go get one. Thank me later.
Imagine the relief of coming home to clean floors every day. Call the number on the screen or visit trymuddymat.com or simply scan the QR code right now to claim an incredible 70% off and get your free Muddy Mat today. But hurry, this exclusive offer is available only for a limited time. Once they are gone, they are gone. Don't let dirt dictate your day. Join thousands of satisfied customers who have already transformed their homes with Muddy Mat. Act now. Clean floors, happy home.
Call 1-800-505-4572.
Drop is finally here. Drop delivers the weight loss benefits of GLP-1 injections in easy-to-use oral drops, no needles.
That's right. The 2 big drawbacks with weight loss injections are high costs and weekly injections. Drop is flavorless and odorless, so you can just add it to water or your favorite beverage. Drop offers other advantages over injections too. With Drop, you can personalize your dosage based on your weight loss goals.
And because you add Drop to any liquid, there's no concern about injection site infections, bruising, or dosage confusion.
Drop is the easier, safer, cost-effective alternative to help you achieve your weight loss goals without the needles.
Can't find it anywhere? The Wellness Company has it. No consultation needed. Simply order online and use promo code SLIM to save $100. Visit dropthepounds.com/slim. That's promo code SLIM at dropthepounds.com/slim.
Time now for news from the left. Photos from Alpha News showing Hilton Hotels corporate making quick work booting a Minneapolis hotel that was operating under its name after the hotel banned ICE officers and then lied about reversing that policy. The global hotel chain got hammered Monday after DHS shared an email from this particular hotel saying, "We have found information about immigration work connected with your name. We'll be canceling your upcoming reservation." That hotel in Minneapolis not allowing ICE or anyone affiliated with DHS to stay there. Hilton Corporate putting out a statement on X saying the independent Hilton hotel owner had assured us they had fixed this problem and published a message confirming that, but a recent video clearly raises concerns that they are not meeting the standards and values of Hilton Corporate. And just that quickly, look at that, the sign being removed, no longer a Hampton by Hilton Inn there in Minneapolis. Good on Hilton Corporate. And finally, Jeopardy host Ken Jennings doing the dumbest thing you could possibly do in this moment, taking a huge swing at the president and his administration, posting on Blue Sky, "The prosecute the former regime at every level candidate has my vote in 2028. Remember when it was just a guy hosting a show asking Jeopardy, Alex Trebek? What happened to this show? And why is the host one of these really, really smart, dumb guys that doesn't understand that you can't put that on the internet? A very, very, very dumb genius. All right, Conan O'Brien taking a swing at late night Trump derangement next.
It all started in 2022 when the Biden administration weaponized the U.S. dollar and imposed sanctions upon Russia. Central banks around the globe moved out of dollar-denominated assets and into gold. Jamie Dimon said gold could easily go to $5,000 or $10,000 an ounce. Gold recently surpassed its inflation-adjusted all-time high. Silver's inflation-adjusted all-time high is $209 an ounce.
Give Patriot Gold Group a call at 1-800-778-4156.
Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold and silver dealer nationwide, home of the no-fee for life IRA. See how easy it is to protect your IRA with physical gold and silver.
Call now, 1-800-778-4156.
I'm an artist and I'm in my studio. I'm hearing the ads about Relief Factor and I've got pain in my neck and it's getting worse and I'm thinking, well, I'm going to go ahead and order this. 2 weeks later and I've got much better range of motion. I'm able to carry these big canvases around. I'm just very, very grateful that I gave the product a try.
If pain is affecting your life, give Relief Factor a try. Call or go online. Get your 3-week quick start for only $19.95. Fight pain naturally with Relief Factor.
Poverty is unimaginable. There are people who are struggling.
This is where she washes the dishes.
If you're ever going to allow your Christian faith to rise and to do something for God's chosen people, now is the time.
This is the home of Galena. She's 96 years old.
This is what she had to eat for today.
She has one pot with water and wheat.
My father was killed by the Nazis, and I was an orphan. I didn't know about God. But now, in the cold, hungry nights, I pray for food to the God I've never known. There are good people that love you.
You'll see the tears. Scripture says joy can come in the morning, and you can be the reason.
Right now in Ukraine, elderly Jews are trapped in unbearable poverty. If you will bless these hurting children of Israel, you will receive God's blessing in return. Your urgent gift today of $25 will help Rush, a survival food box filled with life-saving essentials. Call, scan, or go online now.
I'm not exaggerating when I tell you, I don't know how much longer she could have waited for us to come.
I can't even grow my food anymore. What will happen to me? I'm doomed to starve.
Tens of thousands of elderly Holocaust survivors in the former Soviet Union are living in extreme poverty, hungry, and forgotten. But through the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, we can bring them hope.
It's my favorite food. May you be blessed.
You say to them, we see you and we're here to help.
Please don't delay. Call, scan, or go online now.
And finally tonight, Conan taking a clear swing at late night hosts Kimmel and Colbert. Take a look.
Some comics go the route of, I'm going to just say F Trump all the time. You've been lulled into just saying F Trump, F Trump, F Trump. You've now put down your best weapon, which is being funny, and you've exchanged it for anger.
Yeah, they're just not good comedians is how you advance that a little bit further. Good on Conan O'Brien for calling a spade because these comedians suck.
You know, my dad, when I was younger, used to let me stay up sometimes and watch Johnny Carson's monologue. Yeah. And I think that was why Carson was #1 for 30 years, because you never knew his politics. Yeah. He's dead now and people still don't know his politics. And he defended
that decision all the way to the end. He
from
said,
Nebraska,
you're not
though.
Supposed to know it.
Like you're from Indiana, he's from Nebraska. Good Midwestern guy. I think he was conservative, to be honest. Friends with Ray.
I'd bet on it.
Yeah. All right. Thanks,
Rob.
Rob.
All right.